All right, so in this one, we're going to be taking a look at citizen's arrest and how that pertains to Georgia law. Now, in some of the discussions that I've been having and some of the videos I've been making, I may have been making a mistake with my interpretation of citizen's law as it pertains to Georgia law. Now, in this video, we're going to read the law and we're going to go over it line by line and see what exactly it means and where the mistake that I was making comes from. Let's take a look. All right, so we're going to be taking a look at a citizen's arrest law according to Justia U.S. law. Now, this states the statute based on the way that it's written within Georgia law. 2010 Georgia Code, Title 17, Criminal Procedure, Chapter 4, Arrest of Persons, Article 4, Arrest by Private Persons, Subsection 17-4-60, Grounds for Arrest. So there's two lines, and we're going to be taking a look at each line and what it means. Now, let's just go ahead and read it, and I'll tell you what my interpretation of it was before. Then we can read it, and after the new information that I found out, the way that the law is written and interpreted, I may have interpreted it the wrong way. I'm not a law student, and I will admit my mistakes. If I made a mistake in my interpretation, I will own it right now. So, a private person may arrest an offender if the offense is committed in his presence or within his immediate knowledge. If the offense is a felony and the offender is escaping or attempting to escape, a private person may arrest him upon reasonable and probable grounds of suspicion. So the way that I read and interpreted that is that you can conduct a citizen's arrest on someone if they have committed the offense in your presence or with your immediate knowledge. Now, we all know what within our presence means. That means if somebody does something right in front of you and you can see it. Now, immediate knowledge is a little bit more obscure. Immediate knowledge, according to the law, I haven't found a definition of what immediate knowledge means. When I look up immediate knowledge and look for a definition of it, it more so references something akin to a priori knowledge or intuitive knowledge, which just basically means I know because I know. Now, committed within his presence and immediate knowledge based on the definition of I know because I know are two wildly different things. So I'm not sure what the definition of immediate knowledge is that pertains to the law, but in philosophy, immediate knowledge just means that I know because I have an intuition about it. Now, that's not justified whatsoever. That's an unjustified knowledge claim. So according to my first interpretation, it is a private person conducting a citizen's arrest if the offense is committed within his immediate knowledge, within his presence, and I was taking those two terms as being interchangeably. If the offense is a felony and the offender is escaping or attempting to escape, a private person may arrest him upon reasonable and probable grounds of suspicion. Now, this was a little bit more confusing to me because it's saying that if it's a felony. So I was under the impression that if an offense is committed, that's a felony, that gives you the right to conduct a citizen's arrest. Now, with my new understanding of the way that law is interpreted, let's take it line by line and let's read it for the way that people are saying that it should be interpreted. A private person may arrest an offender if the offense is committed in his presence or within his immediate knowledge. Now, before going on to the second line, they're saying that you need to take these lines independently of each other. So, based on the first line, a person may arrest an offender if the offense is committed within his presence or within his immediate knowledge. In that one, it doesn't state whether it needs to be a felony, whether it needs to be a misdemeanor. It just says a private person may arrest an offender if the offense is committed in his presence or with his immediate knowledge. So it doesn't say whether or not it has to be an offense of a particular caliber. It just says that it has to be an offense. If they're committing the offense in front of you, then you can conduct a citizen's arrest. If the offense is a felony and the offender is escaping or attempting to escape, a private person may arrest him upon reasonable and probable grounds of suspicion. So it changes up the language there a little bit. Before, it has to be within your presence, you having immediate knowledge of it. The second one is saying if it's a felony offense and the offender is attempting to escape, then you can conduct a citizen's arrest, a lawful citizen's arrest, based on reasonable and probable grounds of suspicion. So then we have to determine, okay, well, what are reasonable and probable grounds of suspicion? So if you have a suspicion that somebody is attempting a burglary, you can consider that based on their actions, whether or not it gives you a reasonable and probable grounds of suspicion. Now, people are pointing to the Ahmaud Arbery case and saying that there was reasonable suspicion because he was looking around. I'm not sure to say whether or not that is reasonable enough suspicion for someone to assert that someone was attempting to burglarize something. According to the case, if we assume for the sake of argument that it was Ahmaud Arbery caught on video in trespassing on the construction site all those times before, I don't know how someone could claim that they have reasonable and probable grounds of suspicion of a felony, seeing as how people have entered that premises before and the owner came out and said nothing was ever taken. Now, there were some other burglaries and thefts that had happened in the neighborhood, but those didn't have any video cameras on them. They didn't have any reason to suspect that someone that is trespassing is also the same person committing the burglaries. That's just a correlation. You don't have any way to tie those two together other than an assumption, other than a hunch. And I don't think an assumption or a hunch counts as reasonable or probable grounds of suspicion. You can't just say, oh, I have a hunch that this guy is performing a felony. It says that you have to have reasonable and probable grounds of suspicion. So I think that we do need a better definition of reasonable and probable grounds of suspicion and how that relates to whether or not you do believe that somebody is committing a felony, because nothing was ever taken from the property. So it's going to be hard to show that. But I just wanted to go over what this law says, what my interpretation of it is, and whether or not I did misinterpret the law. The way that I was saying it before is that in order to conduct a citizen's arrest, it has to be a felony and not a misdemeanor. According to this law, it is showing that if it's committed in your presence, it doesn't really matter whether it's a misdemeanor or a felony. You can attempt an arrest if it was committed in your presence. The second part is saying that if it is a felony and someone is trying to flee, all you need is reasonable and probable grounds of suspicion. So those are two different scenarios there, and it's going to be interesting seeing how that plays out in relation to the Ahmaud Arbery case. Well, thank you guys for going over this with me. I want to go ahead and say I apologize for the misinterpretation that I had. I wasn't going off of the best information. I had listened to some law experts that had explained it this way, and I think that they may have had a flawed understanding or maybe even a bias towards it, and I was wrong with siding with their opinion. Now that I've had it explained to me in a different way, I see the grounds for taking these two sentences separately and not combining the two and thinking that the one has an effect on the other. It seems like these are two different statements according to the law here. All right, guys, thank you very much. Whether or not you do agree or you disagree, please leave a comment in the section down below and just share your thoughts with us. I appreciate you for watching. This is Inspiring Inquiry.